let's see, you tell me. Now, beautiful. Here we are, Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, all together here to grow in our prosperity consciousness, mastering creation, to really understand how we can get out of the way, I will say, with this amazing book that we are studying here, the Abundance Book. Release everything that we are not, let's call it, that supporting us to survive, but now we are to
Dr. Monica lost for a moment, but it'll catch up. Be patient, please. Oh, her screen froze.
Can you see everything? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Well, then I'm going to send it to Doc Fran. Can you take over?
All right. Are you ready to? We missed your entire opening commentary. I have absolutely no idea where to start now.
Okay, I can tell you. You go to page 138.
Yes.
Beautiful.
No.
And then is in pride. Okay, so we just started. We can continue there.
I was being facetious. I just missed. You always have such a lovely synopsis for us, so it's good to it's a good jumping off point. So I will have to.
Thank you.
Jump blind from this cliffside now. So here we go. Yeah, we had started the exercise of releasing pride, and for me personally, it was quite an insightful start and exercise. So I think we just continue. I think we did just step one, ask yourself, what am I proud of? And we made a release list and then and talked about it. Did anybody have anything to offer, any insights this week from the action we took last week? I think that would be a fun place to start because there's such an amazing collective wisdom in this panel. Okay, well, then we can move right on to step two. Ask yourself, can I let go of holding on to the pride? And I'll back up a second just to kind of preface this remark for those of you who may have just joined us or were confused by last week's. But just above this exercise, they have a statement that says, pride is an emotion that gets us stuck because we often want to hold on to it and protect it. Pride is sometimes a sense of having done it and not being sure if we can do it again. Interesting. Therefore, we hold on to what we've done and try to get acknowledgement for it instead of just moving on our next accomplishment. It's sometimes a subtle sense of being better than others. Pride is a blind spot for most of us. We often get stuck in pride and don't know it. Doing this exercise will uncover your pride for yourself and let it go. What I want you to do is just follow along and see what happens. So last week we asked ourselves, what am I proud of? We made a list, and each of us talked about and did some releasing of the wants associated with each item. And for mine, it was very strongly wanting acceptance and love, and being accepted as a superior person and a perfectionist. And perfectionism is it's a very subtle two-edged sword, as I'm learning, and I learned a lot last week. So all All right, number 2 is ask yourself, could I let go of holding on to pride? So why don't we take a couple minutes in silence and reflect on that and see what that brings up for each of us this morning. Could I let go of pride? All right, who has some ideas on could I let go of pride? Are you guys hearing me? Oh.
Well, my answer is pretty simple, and it's yes, I could let go of pride, and I want to, and I'm kind of amazed by all the aspects that I thought of as fairly normal that we're calling pride, and once the name is on it, I get it that pride. It's just kind of amazing the layers that we've built up to not see or know ourselves. So yes, big answer, yes.
All right, well, thanks, Candace. Anybody else? Does anybody have a problem or a little bit of a challenge at the idea of letting go of our pride?
I don't have a problem, but I just want to add to Candace that it's very powerful, because once you let go, there's like layers, like in an onion. There are many layers of pride. And this is, for me, the beauty of this work. Once you let go of the main layer, let's say, like in a game of balls that, I don't know, can't remember exactly the name of that game right now. That's why I was a bit blocked. But, once you let go of the main layer, then all the other layers go. And then something incredible happens. And I've been experiencing this last week. I mean, sometimes we're concerned about the pride in business and situations with a partner. But then when you dig into, for example, with any relationship, any situation, even romantic or with a person or anything like that, and you let go of that pride, it's like the magic happens, and then you release, and then, it's okay for any other context. And to me, it's incredible, because if I can let go of that, really, it's a win-win, it's really a win-win. So it's crucially important. And I've been experiencing that throughout the week, more or less, but I think this is the right path for that. And for me, it's a really extremely important point in all this work.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. Good, Arnie's back. I think we lost Arnie and Monica. Here we go. We're coming back. Well, the thing that occurred to me as I wrote the question down and then just really asked it to myself out loud, it immediately popped up that this is an incredibly difficult thing to do. I think we've learned through this little process to the point that, as Celia mentioned, pride is layered in so intricately to the fabric of who we are that it's very difficult to be aware of it in all of its little tenacious tentacles, I guess. So it's very difficult to actually say yes or no, you can let go of pride, because you may have the intention of letting go of pride. You may want to, you may understand consciously and theoretically why it's a good thing to do, but that doesn't make it easy, as we've all discovered. What occurred to me is that pride is the stronghold of the ego. It is the primary weapon in my observation right now. And it is the controller. Our ego is the controller of our physical beingness, our physical self, our physical awareness. And as we have all discovered, the ego doesn't just give up and go down easily or quietly. It fights for its turf. And it's got such a broad range by virtue of being incorporated into every aspect of our beingness, that it has very insidious control. So I think that at this point, being aware that pride is a two-edged sword. Yes, it is the bridge between the lower emotions on the tone of the chart of imperturbability on 42 and 43 pages, but it's also the gateway to the upper emotions. And so we encountered this. I'm sorry, my throat. We encountered this in our study of Scientology.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Artie.
I have let go of pride, quite kind of proud of that, you know. So it kind of catches me in the being proud. No, I'm not a proud person. I'm proud of that. So yeah, and I notice in my belly when I'm talking about it, there is a nervousness in there. So yeah, it's hiding.
Well, in Scientology, there's a condition known as hung up at doubt, and it's a very common thing. I mean, that's probably the position in life that most of us find ourselves, it seems to me, most of the time, because whenever you're faced with decisions, how many of you have experienced where the correct decision is always clear-cut, absolutely evident, and easily grasped for and moved towards without any hesitation? That certainly doesn't describe me. So hung up at doubt is a common condition, and I never understood up until now the role that pride plays in being in that condition. Being a sentient being, I would always think that I was being rational and evaluative and making the right decision by looking at both sides. And now, having learned that following the flow and just feeling and getting out of your thinkingness is really one of the major keys to success in unlocking this mysterious pattern of control that we've woven on ourselves. So it's so funny that suddenly this little chapter here with its notes on pride and that one paragraph about pride, it shined the brightest light on a condition that I've wrestled with all of my life, mistakenly understanding the reason or the cause of it. And, you know, there's another axiom that I learned that if, and this is really funny, this is all like coming into clarity for me right now about the idea of rationality versus simply following your inner guidance system. But if you have a problem and you think you know that A is the reason for that problem. And so you attempt to counteract A or solve that reason. If A is not the true reason for the problem, not only do you not solve it, but you actually make it worse. So the rational approach can often be confusing, again, because of the role that pride plays in causing us to think we're choosing the correct solutions. So I hope this is making a little bit of sense to the others on the panel, because I'm as-ising this as I'm going. And once you as-is something, it just becomes clear in your thinking and in your beingness. And you no longer can recall it in specifics, because there's no longer any need to. It simply is, and you've accepted it, and it's now part of your working subconscious. And there's another awareness. That's ultimately the objective of all of these exercises for each and every one of us, and that is to conscientiously do the exercise, apply it, and render it into your positively working subconscious belief system. And I think I mentioned once before, and then I'll shut up, but this chapter is really turning me on. I think you can tell. One of the things that I've mentioned in the past is that when I went through exercises of this sort, self-help exercises, led, guided, reading, if I went to a doctor or a clinician or something, my pride, my ego would lead me to focus more on the process than the experience of the process. I would be constantly, instead of experiencing the benefit that I was seeking, I would be constantly analyzing the process that was being done. And in so doing, I completely negated the impact of the process. And how many of us have gone into things hoping that they would produce a result that we thought we were seeking, and came out the other end thinking that was a waste of time and money, and blamed that hapless practitioner or whomever did their best to communicate their knowledge about us and our problem, that we were simply unwilling to accept. Is that communicating to anybody on the panel? I'm going to shut up now.
Well, I'm noticing more. Oh, Beryl, you go.
I was thinking that pride is most of the time attached to something that happened in the past, like when you are going to a practitioner and analyzing what happened actually in the past, and you're not present to what's being done now and to get best out of it now. Pride is always a past idea attached to something in the past. It's never about the present now. And it blocks us to be present to the now and get most out of it, what's given us. Like the doctor is trying to do something to you and you're not open to it fully because your ideas are judging something that happened in the past. And for example, for my side, I see that most of the time when I'm pride about, let's say, my job or education, something that I got, all of them are happened in the past. They are nothing about now. And if I'm proud of it, if I'm in those ideas, I miss lots of opportunity to hear some new ideas from another, or to understand the problem, what's going on in that moment. I'm never present. I realized that, for example, in Bible, I get as reference, God never told us, I've done this, I've done that, I always was. I was always there and I will always be. He didn't see that I did this in the past. He said, I am that I am. Because it's now. And God is now. What's happening is now. And if he said, I created all the universe, that's something in the past. That would not allow even God to be present us now. So the pride is one of the main blockages to get the best out of everything.
Burl, you hit the, yeah, let's clap for that. That was brilliant. That was so brilliant. And the power and the importance of being in the now. And as soon as you started talking, I just was in awe. And it's so true, because if you're thinking, you can't be in the now. You are either in the future or in the past, as you've pointed out. So rather than literally hearing or assessing or experiencing what is happening, you're in your own thoughts. You're not in the now. That was brilliant. It's got me quite excited. I can't even speak coherently right now. So,
well, those were wise words, and unfortunately, I have some other situations. I'm realizing my pride is coming out, and for example, asking for directions or help. I'm building the house. Well, why don't you ask your neighbor for a little help, or why don't you ask for? No, I can handle it. Don't worry about it. But it's really pride there, to that stops that kind of action. So more pride.
well, this is healthy. I think it's really elaborating for all of us and for our listeners how insidious pride is in blocking, and that's a wonderful word, Burl. It truly blocks us from being in the present. We dismiss ideas that we don't agree with or don't gel with our experiences in the past, and therefore we refuse to truly listen to it and have any experience of an alternative idea in the present time. So we truly do lock ourselves off or block ourselves off from any potential for growth in the current situation or the current time. Wow. Anybody else have anything to add?
Yes, I have one thing, Dr. Frank. I just want to add, because you mentioned before that it's so difficult sometimes to get into the gist of the pride because it's so intricate in ourselves, and it's so true. So for me, as a tool, that at least for me, it works. So when I see it reflected in another person, that sometimes it's like, oh my God, this sucks. Or, something about a person that I just dislike, and it's totally that person's pride, and it's a reflection exactly of the type of pride that I despise in the person and that I have it in myself. So as a tool, I recommend, that's a very good technique. When you see it reflected in somebody, and if somebody that is really concerned to you and it really sucks, then it's because you have to work on it, on yourself. So it's a great way to find it in yourself.
There we go. Excellent point, Celio. And awesome. Well, I think then I'm just going to start reading again and move through the rest of this until we find another action item to work on, because it seems to me we could easily spend the next half hour running around on this one topic and picking it clean. So number 3 under releasing pride says, things that people are often proud about that we are not consciously aware of. Being stubborn, being able to drive others crazy by acting negatively, being a woman or being a man, being smart, being proud of certain things you do in life, being a smart ass or a brat. You get the idea? So think about something you're proud about, whatever it is. Being a smart ass, being stubborn, being smarter than most people, being able to drive people crazy, whatever it is you're proud of, write it down. I want you to dig as deep as you can. Write down and notice the things that you are proud about that you hide from yourself and don't want even yourself, and definitely others, to know. So think of one thing you're proud of. Could you see that as either wanting approval, wanting control, or wanting safety and security? And could you let go of either wanting approval, control, or safety and security? And then think of something else you're proud of. Whatever want it stirs up, could you just let it go? Now, think of something else you're proud of. Remember, pride is a holding on feeling. So could you even let go of pride of your son or daughter for a point of for a past accomplishment? It's okay to be proud of your son or daughter, but sometimes we hold on to the pride so we can't move forward. Sometimes we hold on to it so tight we won't let them move forward. Oh, man. Let go and move up. Just let go of the pride and see if it gets any better. Don't just stay stuck. So see what else you're proud of. Could you let that go? And more, and even more. And think of something else you're proud of. Dig as deep as you can. And could you let that go? Could you let go of being proud of that? And more, and more. And I'm not saying it's bad to proud. Well, there's a word missing here. And I'm not saying it's bad to be proud. I'm just saying it's okay to feel it, but then move on. Ah, thank you. Move up to courageousness, acceptance, and peace. Don't just stay stuck in pride. And more, and more. Something just occurred to me. You know what? How many people find safety and security in being stuck in pride? Because we've done something that we view as having merit or value and worthy of pride. And just maybe that was our last hurrah. It struck me that being stuck in pride on past accomplishments is kind of a get out of jail free card in terms of ever being responsible for doing something else of value in the forward. So, you know, hey, don't ask me to do anything more. Look at what I've done, kind of thing. I'm looking at the man in the mirror on that comment.
Now, then the reverse of that, in my case, having a situation where I got into a fight with someone, not physical, but you know, and it was about being right about a certain topic. Of course, the other person thought they were right, but I thought I was right. So not letting go of being right, you know, my pride here, you know, like, no, I am right. And I'm not letting go of this thing. And the fight continues. Actually, the last month or so, I've been able to let go a little bit of the holding on to, I need to be, you know, be seen as I was right, that is right. And no love is there then. And but it's my pride that holds on there. The addiction to being right. I think there's a connection between being right and pride.
I think you're right on, and I love it. I'm smiling and laughing as you're talking. I have a very, very dear friend here locally, Steve DeLeese, and he is a true Renaissance man. The guy, he's 78 years old. he's spry as you know. The two of us have been working on sailboats and sailing every day basically for the last 2 years. So he moves like somebody who's in their 20s. He's a computer genius. He's an artist. He's a musician. He has created a company that generates in excess of $100 million a year in business. And yet he's a gentleman that never graduated from the 8th grade in the American schooling system. And he has this in his garage, which is a huge workshop. He's a machinist, a master machinist. He can make anything out of any material. He's got 4 computers that interact to program, design, and run 3 different computer-generated 3-dimensional and 4-dimensional computer milling machines. You get the idea of this guy's brain. So he has a sign in his office that says, there's two signs in there that make me smile and laugh every time I read them. One is, it says, we'll get along a lot better if we just assume that I'm never wrong. And the second one is, he has a picture. How many of you remember the movie called The Shining with John Nicholson? What's his name? Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson, and he gets this deranged look, and he punches a hole in the door with an axe and sticks his head through and says, "Here's Johnny." Well, he's got that picture of himself in that position with this, just absolutely wild-eyed look. And the caption on the little poster says, "The limits of your the extent of your stupidity is pushing the limits of my medication." So anyway,
is he the guy that rescued you from your grounded boat?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. I heard that I went aground once, but and I know whose fault that was too. That was not my fault. I forget who was with me that day, pounding large amounts of vodka down my throat, but we're not going to go there. Yeah, that wasn't my fault. Oh, no. Yes, that was Steve. All right. Judgments. Oh, now here we go. I guess we're up to judgments now. Does anybody have anything they want to add here before we move on to a new topic? All righty. Judgments. In this section, we're going to explore judgment. So right now, let's ask some more questions. Who or what are you judging? Put your head down. Notice there's a clutching and energy there. Could you let go of judging and more and more? Think of somebody you're judging. It could be yourself. It could be somebody else. Notice it's uncomfortable. Put your head down and just allow that energy to come up. Don't release for them, release for you. And allow that energy to leave, and more and even more. Think of something else you're judging and just allow that energy to come up and let go of judging it. Just allow it to pass through. And think of something or somebody you have a judgment about. Could you allow that energy to come up in your stomach or in your chest and just allow it to pass through, and more and more? And for new people on the phone or on the call here today, letting go involves a metaphor that we've created. If we think of all this energy, this unpleasant feeling welling up inside of us, trying to get out of us, we need to give it away to escape. So we've created this metaphor of having on our stomach or our chest, wherever you feel that feeling, the image of a large window that we can simply open and allow that energy to flow out through that open window. That's literally the act of releasing that energy. When we do that, we release all of our attention and energy that we have stuck in that energy. And so the more negative energy you release, the better you feel inside, because you're going to fill yourself with positive energy to take the place of the negative. So about judging, this is an interesting phenomenon right now. And we're all judgmental. I think it's a safe assumption to say. We're in a hotbed of political judgment going on in the United States right now. I don't think I remember a time in my life where the political landscape has been more polarized, more bitter, more judgmental, more vicious, or possibly more important, if it's important at all, as to the outcome. But I've been basically apolitical since college, because I used to get so rabidly politicized and polarized, because of course I was right. I knew what was right, and I couldn't understand why the rest of the world didn't understand things with such clarity as myself. And so my response to that, of course, was to withdraw to my pinnacle of internalness on the top of my own created mountain and sit in silent superiority over the masses of unwashed that were still writhing in their judgmental imperfections. Now, how's that for a sentence that came right off the top of my head? So, but this year I have found myself drawn into the political judgmental process, and I have resurfaced as this, this monster of a judgmental individual. All of it pointed directly at Hillary Clinton, which I still to this minute fail to understand how intelligent people can simply ignore the tally of all of the evidence to the contrary of that woman being anything other than a criminal, a traitor, a manipulator, a sociopath, etc. And but I don't want to be judgmental here this morning, because we're talking about being judgmental. So I'm willing to chalk it up and simply write, I always believed that the willing suspension of disbelief was a behavior we engaged in knowingly and willingly when we went to movies. We're not supposed to apply it to real life situations, in my observation. So, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I love it when people say to me, well, nobody's ever proven anything against the Clintons. And I say, really? I said, well, there's a good reason for that. In fact, there's about 90 good reasons for that, because that's the number of people who were willing and ready to testify against the Clintons who committed suicide or had natural death experiences at the eve of their testimony. So coincidence? Perhaps, I don't know. But 90 of them over a 20-year period, it just seems to me that there may be some fire where that smoke is coming from. But other than that, that's how easy it is to get drawn into judgments, because I go way down tone when I think about her, when I speak about her. So I'm working on not even thinking or speaking about her anymore.
I can just imagine you if you were not going down tone. Yeah.
Well, she's one step away from being that tug captain that I addressed quite vociferously one morning.
I wish I had recorded that 15 minutes of cursing. Never heard of anything like that. But I'm also realizing something here, that one of my big judgments are against God. Every time I'm not getting what I want, or I'm getting what I don't want, well, who is at fault? Well, God is at fault. So because if God was on my side, I would have everything I want and not have what I don't want. So there is a deep-seated, hidden judgment about God in there. Maybe the basic one, the fundamental one. So that I need to do some releasing on that.
Well, that was a good insight.
Let's see if you can hear me a little bit. I'm a little, I don't know, like concerned about the quality of the video, you know, that we have here. But something interesting when you were talking, Doc Fran, you know, all this political and all that stuff, I was just checking myself, you know, who do I judge, and like, how does it feel, and is this wanting approval, wanting security, wanting control? I don't know. I was checking in, you know, and then I realized, like, wow, because I touched the place where it was wanting security. It's so funny. It's like, wow. So then I'm thinking, you know, in the political world, let's say, it's pretty amazing if all of us, we could release the wanting security. That is what makes us to judge one or the other, you know, because instead of focusing on the good qualities of whoever you love and you would like to, we are really focusing on the bad qualities. We are really judging the other people, you know, and really ends up, I don't know for you, but my inspiration was like, wow, I never thought that judgment really wanting security in this case, in my own case right now. So I just want to share that because it was very simple, and I'm going to really look, because I do judge a lot and I'm very aware of, so it's not that I, you know, continue it, but the first kick comes out, you know, and it's like, ah, so maybe the release is to check in, you know, if it's control, approval. So I'm happy about it. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Well, you're welcome. And that again is a beautiful insight. And Arne gave us the key to understand, or the clue to understand, you know, why we are judgmental. And you mentioned it in your comment there, and that is the need to be right. That is an incredibly strong drive in our beingness, both our spiritual beingness and more particularly, of course, in our physical beingness. And so we want to be right. So we judge everything against our yardstick of rightness, and anyone who differs obviously is wrong. So, all right. Well, we'll move on here. Are you judging yourself for judging yourself, or for judging other people? Could you let go of judging yourself and more and more and more? Are you judging somebody for being in pride? Are you proud of being proud, or proud of being judgmental? Whichever energy it stirs up, could you just allow it to pass through, and more and even more? And think of somebody else or something else that you're judging. And could you let it go, and more and more and more? Keep releasing in the judging until you are clear before moving on. Now, think of something you're guilty about. It's another form of judgment. Could you allow that energy to come up? And let go of resisting it. Let go of clutching, and just allow it to pass through, and more and more. It's just a habit. All right, guilt. I don't think we should spend any time on this, because I'm sure that nobody on this panel feels guilt about anything. So can I see a show of hands? How many want to just skip this part? Yeah. All right, we're doing this one now, baby. Think of something you're guilty about, Monica, and just allow that energy to come up. Put your head down and allow it to come up, and allow it to pass through, and more and even more. And think of something you did in the past that you feel guilty about. Put your head down. It's silly to feel guilty about it. You're just hurting yourself, and you're just judging yourself, if you've never noticed. And that is also pride. Can you allow that energy to come up and allow it to pass through, and more and even more? Think of someone who judges you or judges other people. Are you judging them back for doing that? Put your head down and notice there's an energy there, and just allow it to pass through, and more and even more. And think of something else you're guilty about, something you're guilty for doing. Just allow that energy to come up and allow it to pass through. Keep releasing until the guilt is gone, then move on. Who has a thought about guilt?
Judging. Okay, Celio, you go.
No, Arne, go on. I will go after. Okay.
No, Celio, you go.
Okay.
No, I go.
Just the word, Dr. Fran, the word guilt, I find is toxic. The word, the semantics, the word is toxic. It's so dense. And to me, you know, I have seen so much guilt in my family, in situations around me that are incredibly arduous and intense. And, you know, this is not the moment to talk about it, but I've seen so much guilt. And now that you're reading this, I see it's important, not only me, but in other people, when I see that guilt, you know, to release it for me and for them, because I know it's the most powerful way to clean that, to release that is so important. Guilt is really an extremely toxic venom in a lot of people's life. And I've seen it a lot around me, in my family, in business situations, in things that whatever, you know, and to me it's extremely important that we release that guilt. I may not like the word, but I really have to work on that, seriously.
Well, thank you for that. The question I wanted to pose to the panel here is, in terms of a time continuum, where are you when you're feeling guilt?
Someplace much earlier in life, childhood, even early childhood.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Go. Okay. My sensation, and I have to explore this with a little more depth because it's like, oh my gosh. But the sensation that I get to me where I am at is I am in feeling bad. Like I feel bad. You know, for me, guilt is like, is based on, you know, like I have done something wrong, or I hurt someone, or someone is unhappy with me. But what I'm experiencing is, you know, like feeling bad about myself, you know. And it's in the moment, even though I understand conducts that, you know, come from habits from my childhood, you know, expectations from parents, whatever it is that we when they're in my present time, you know, I sense the guilt or something like that when, you know, I really think I make a mistake or I did something wrong, or, you know, that thinking that I'm bad or something like that. And if I explore, you know, is this wanting control, whatever, I really got into I got into the wanting security, you know, like, oh my gosh, you know, I did something wrong, you know, like it's fear. At the end, it's wanting security, you know, and I'm happy that I need to explore this more in details in when it is that I feel guilty, you know, or not, with this honestly. But I get that sense, you know, like, is judging, you know, like something wrong, bad, but really comes from this fearful aspect of myself or something like that. So opening the window to wanting security for me in this case. Thanks. And Arne, please, I cut you off.
No problem at all. I just feel a little guilty about cutting you off. So to me, it seems like guilt is always in relationship to in my life to other people. So either I didn't do something perfect, or I did something that was not the way it should be. It's almost like if I look at myself and there was no other people in the world, I wouldn't care. Yeah, I did something this way or that way. So what? But when I get to relate to it to other people, can you stop that, Monica? It's your excuse me. The other things happening here. Now she's feeling guilty over there. Anyway, so it's in relationship to other people. So that means that guilt for me is based on wanting approval. If there were no other people, I don't need to want approval, then I don't care. I don't feel guilty. It was just something, but it's only when it's relationship to mentioning to someone else or they telling me that. So it must be based on wanting approval, guilt. Gonna release that too.
All right. Well, what occurred to me, and it seems to me that you know, we've discussed the idea that time is a man-made convenience to record the passage of eternity. And so when I asked about where in time are you when you have a feeling of guilt, it seems to me that we're actually time traveling. And even though the feeling is in present time, you're currently feeling it, it is always related to an event in the past. And so your mind is actually in the past, recalling an event and dredging up a feeling about an event that occurred in the past. So what does that tell our panel about the value of guilt in terms of any ability to move forward or change or have gain from the sensation of guilt?
Wow, I love it, Doc Fran, because you are right. It's like, I mean, you're right. Yes, you're right. But it's because, you know, the understanding, you know, of if was not time, guilt will not exist, you know. So it's true that the more we are, like Barry was saying in the beginning, you know, to really be in present time, you know, to really be in present time, we will not be catch with our mind, you know, judging or remembering something. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me.
All right, good. Well, I think we've finished that since we're not stimulating anything. Guilt is a useless emotion. You cannot change the past. You cannot change the event. You can't unring a bell, as the expression goes. So why even allow ourselves to feel it? You know, we did it back then. It had value at the time. It seemed like the right thing to do. Everyone associated with every act that we've ever done that we might feel guilt about was a willing participant in that event. So again, when you go through, there's another long course of study I've done called A Course in Miracles. Has anybody on the panel done that reading, the Course in Miracles? Well, then, Beryl, you know, and I'm not surprised that you put your thumb up on that.
Not reading. I was a teacher of Course in Miracles for 6 years.
There you go.
Ago.
All right. So, you know, I mean, we all know baseline there, at least people that have been exposed to that come to a realization that there is no sin. There is no need for guilt or punishment. That it's interwoven with forgiveness, radical forgiveness. And once you exist in a state of true forgiveness, then there is no need for punishment. There is no need for judgment. There is no need for any of these negative emotions. And for people that are listening for the first time, I have a very lovely definition of forgiveness, which is that forgiveness is the state of mind that recognizes that all events in your life are expressions of God's pure love, divine love. And we're all willing participants in every event of our life, whether we judge them good, bad, or indifferent. So again, it points up the uselessness of guilt as an emotion in present time, because at the root of all things, there is no need to ever there's no need for forgiveness, basically. There's no need to be judgmental. There's no need to be angry. We're all perfect, immortal, spiritual beings. Okay, Burl, you have a comment.
Yeah, you completed actually. The Course in Miracles seems like a forgiveness book, but actually it emphasizes that there is no need for forgiving anything, because there is nothing sinful done. There is no guilt to be forgiven. It's always our judgment, our idea about something which is not true. The truth about ourselves is how wonderful we are, it's how beautiful we are. That's the only thing which has nothing to forgive. And when we try to forgive things, for example, I say, you did this to me, and I forgive you, that's something still I'm holding in my mind. Even though I'm forgiving you, I cannot forgive you because I'm holding on something in the past still. You cannot forgive, it's not possible, because when you are forgiving, you are focusing on a fault that you detected. It's just only remembering that there's no need for forgiveness. There is nothing to forgive.
Isn't it a wonderful conundrum? Go ahead, Arnie.
I like to change the word forgiveness, and to me, the true meaning of forgiveness, like Beryl is saying here, is allowing. Allow, and like what you said also, Dr. Fran, there is no wrongdoing. Everybody was willing participants, conscious or unconscious, and it happened. And the only problem is if we hold on to it, and then we demand that, we need to forgive this, or somebody need to forgive this, I need to forgive this, but we're holding on. So the key, what we're really looking for, is allowing it to pass through, allowing it to be. Yeah, something happened there. Maybe I don't understand the whole thing about it. Hold on to it. I'm going to free myself, and I'm going to allow it. So I like to use the word allowing instead of forgiveness.
Arne, that is brilliant. That just expanded and actually, in the greatest part, eliminated the confusion that Burl spoke of. That how can you forgive someone if you truly believe that there's nothing there to forgive? And yet it's a conundrum, because as a human being, we've already made a judgment about an action which we feel we're being superior in allowing forgiveness of that event. So, this is the intricate way. This is why I said we can all know that we want to get rid of pride, but it is so intricately interwoven into the very fabric of our beingness that to literally master the dispersal of that emotion in ourselves means to unweave the very fabric of our beingness. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay, Doc Fran, I think we need to complete for today. What an intense topic, and like to acknowledge all of us and the people that are seeing the video here, the recording, for the courage that we have to face ourselves, to bring light to it, and to understand ourselves deeper and free ourselves really. So I'm very happy, and I acknowledge all of you about that, and myself included here, to have the courage to go deeper, And next week we will continue with topics: separation, rejecting, jealousy, being better than others. So I think we have a lot of material to purge, like to be humble enough to just let it go, because that's the human condition, let's say, and we are getting human beings, with capital letters, and that's what we are doing here all together. So I just want to thank everyone for your participation, for your passion for this topic, and I wish you a wonderful week. And we get together next Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. And if you know of anyone that could benefit from this deep, real work here, don't doubt to invite them, and have a beautiful week. Bye.
Adios, everybody.
Bye,
Thank you for
everybody.
your wisdom.
Bye.
Bye.
Fabulous
Thanks for sharing your
panel.
wisdom. Yeah.
Yes.